Never dreamed that one day I would be doing this as a vocation. It's been a very rewarding career. When I was a kid, I didn't hang out with the other kids in school much, and I always was always in my room doing stuff with art. I always loved art. From a very early age, I picked up on art and just loved to create things and fix things. I used to tear things apart at home and try and put them back together and figure out how things worked, and that's just kind of how my life was as a kid. I usually took art classes in high school, and my art teachers were always very encouraging. I guess they saw that I had something, and so they were very encouraging. And as time went on and I graduated from high school, the thing to do was to get a job and go to work. So that's just what I did. My parents both worked at a plastic factory, and so they got me my first job at the place they worked. And then over the years, I ended up in a company that made architectural products, extruded aluminum, and I spent 30 years doing that and just kind of doing some art things on the side. A lot of the workers would come to me for caricatures and stuff, for birthday cards, and so I just kind of did that on the side, and just for the fun of it. Never really thought about doing art as a profession until in the early 2000s. The company I worked for kind of had a history of letting people go after a lot of years, and so I had 29 years in, and I kind of felt like my time would be coming soon, so I started thinking about what I could do, and so I decided that I think I would like to pursue fine art as a career. I noticed in downtown Edinburgh that there was a storefront for rent, and had been available for quite some time. And I told my wife that I was going to rent the place and open up a studio there. She thought I was nuts, because at the time I was out of work and didn't have the extra income. But then I sold a couple of paintings, and they were pretty pricey paintings, and she realized that just those two paintings alone would pay my rent for a year. And so she gave me the okay to open up, and so I've been here almost 14 years. I've been really blessed to have met some very influential people in the art world, and have made good acquaintances and good friends. One of those friends is Eric Rhodes for Plein Air Magazine and Fine Art Connoisseur Magazine. He is the president and CEO of both magazines. He's invited me to teach at their national or international convention, and so went out to Monterey, California a few years ago and did some teaching out there. You get to travel to other areas of the country and paint, and a lot of it is by invitation of Plein Air Magazine. Getting into some of my technique, one thing I like to do, and that you've been watching here, is I like to do an underpainting. And by doing this underpainting, one, I'm establishing where the objects are that are in the painting, and I'm also establishing the values. The values are the light and dark scale, and so by doing the sketching and putting this underpainting in place, then I'm establishing where my darkest darks and my lightest lights are. I also do Well, a different variety of subjects, including portraits, pet portraits, house portraits, and such. And I think as far as the approach to painting a portrait, I don't really approach it that much different than a landscape, mainly because when I'm painting, what I'm thinking about is shapes. All of the shapes that are in a vase, or a vase or flowers or a tree or a rock, all those different facets that each of those items have. One of my most exciting paintings that I've ever done was one called Lazy Afternoon. It's a 30 by 40 painting, so a rather large painting. My favorite style in painting are the Barbizon artists of the 1800s, early to late 1800s, and it's the Barbizon school in France. Several artists broke away from the academic world and began painting outdoors, and landscape for the first time became the subject. For anyone just getting started painting, I would really recommend that they study with someone that they have a deep respect for, and kind of, talk with them, and ask them questions, and study their work. A lot of the work that I study are the old master from the 1800s. Those guys had it figured out. When you're doing fine art for a living, this is your vocation, there is a temptation to try and please everyone, and so you really kind of have to think about the style of art that you want to create and what really trips your trigger, what motivates you, the style, and really stick to that as much as possible. I know when you're doing this for a living and you get a commission to paint something, occasionally you might have to stray off of what you do. In some degree, I would discourage totally selling out, but because once you've established your voice in the art world and people know you for the work that you do, they come to you for commissions for a reason, and that's because they like your work. So in most cases, people will understand that what they're going to get in a commission piece is what they've seen in galleries or in your gallery. So I would highly encourage anyone who picks up commission work to stay true to their theology. When I'm painting, the colors that I'm using here may be a little exaggerated from the photograph that I took of a waterfall in Brown County. So when you're painting, you do have to tend to exaggerate colors a little bit, and also exaggerate the shadows just a bit, just so that when you're layering on the subsequent layers of paint, and each layer is a little lighter in value. By the time you get to that very brightest value, then the white paint that you have on your palette is the lightest color you have, and that has to represent the light coming from the sky, or in this case the shimmer of light that's reflecting off of the water that's falling off of the edge of the rock. Keeping in mind your lightest light and your darkest dark, you want to work within those values, and by doing that you have to have some shadows that are appropriate to pull that light color paint to the foreground. The thing that I've struggled with early was the amount of chroma or color that I would put in a painting. One of the aspects of painting is unification, and what that means is you want to try and limit the number of colors that you put in a painting so that the painting has a more sophisticated or a unified look. Early on, I would put every color in the rainbow in my paintings, and they were very fractured and very amateurish. And through my training, I've learned that the fewer colors that you can use to make a point on your canvas, the better. This is part of the reason why I do this underpainting, is that helps to unify the entire painting. I'm using these red tones throughout the painting, and so once the finished painting is complete, all of these red tones you'll be able to see throughout the painting through the final coats. They're the final layers, and that will give the painting a much more appealing look. An artist's job is to create light